Hey, woodchucks. Had a question on grinding harvester chain. I reviewed one I had made earlier and thought I'd throw in a couple of things that maybe fill in a little bit of blanks on how I approach it. I had a question on my jig here. So what I did, take a new bar, sacrifice a new bar so you've got, that good, your gauge is tight. You don't want that side to side on a worn out bar. Now, this was, I'll call it a contraption that myself and my welder guy came up with that makes it pretty easy to throw a chain on, sprocket, bar, these bolts here just slide into your bar mount. And it really is, I would think, this is made specifically for this chain length. I think somebody more clever than myself could probably come up with a jig that is more variable so that, you could purchase it and bolt onto your bar for different bar lengths. But this is what I'm using, and it works really slick, really easy to slip that on. And besides, making it really handy to file, the other thing that I realize is kind of a fringe benefit is I immediately know if my chain has any damage. And the damage I'm talking about here is not the cutter teeth, but drive lengths or bent lengths. If you run a harvester, you know that it's not uncommon. It's far more common with harvester chain than chainsaw chain, where you've got so much hydraulic pressure and drive that you throw a chain in the woods and it will bugger up the drivers on the chain, or it can actually bend the links. And I had to learn when I started grinding, that's the grinder I'm using when I do grind chain. It was really frustrating to get 3/4 of the way around a loop of chain and then I come up to a broken link or a bunch of drivers that have been really buggered up that I got to fix. So this here, you slip it on. If that's sliding around nice and easy, we're good to go. Now, when I'm filing, I have this portable light stand. I think that is really key with hand filing chain. Harvester chain, chainsaw chain, doesn't matter. And what I use is the lighting to help me decide when the tooth is actually sharp. And I'm hoping I can show you this with a couple of pictures and maybe even a little more video. So what I'm trying to show you here, I can't hold this camera, the phone really still, I got the picture there to show you, is what I'm working with. Because I can move that light stand around, I'm working with that shadow line between the file and the cutting edge. So this chain is what I would call wood dull. It hasn't been damaged, it's just lost that nice cutting edge. So when I get done filing, this is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to move that file away just a tad. If I see any of that shadow line, I'm going to keep filing until that shadow line disappears. And that's my visual cue that I've accomplished getting the edge sharp. Basically, when the edge disappears, I'm back to the chrome and I've got a good edge. Another thing I think is worth mentioning here with harvester chain to chainsaw chain. Both of these are new. Notice the difference in the side plate shape. Okay, chainsaw chain, handheld saws, round filed. You want that forward, I call it that forward angle right up at the very top, right? Right there. There's different ways of describing that, but you need that forward angle. That's what gives the saw, they call it self-feeding effect. In other words, if you run a saw, that little dance you play between a saw chain being too aggressive and one that you've got to push on to get it to cut. We don't want to push on a saw, but we don't want it too aggressive. And that little forward angle there on the side plate is one of the issues. I know the depth gauge affects it also, but your forward angle on your round file. Now, harvester chain here. You notice the difference. This is a new tooth, hasn't been touched. I have found harvester chain right off the roll cuts just fine. Unlike gas-powered saw chain, I don't even use it until I've sharpened it. But harvester chain is different, and the difference, of course, is Harvester chain has that hydraulic pressure pushing your bar into the wood all the time. We don't feel it. We're back in the cab touching a button. But the difference is if we kind of gravitate toward sharpening the harvester chain similar to our handheld saw chain, the hydraulic pressure will peen that top corner down. It's simply pushing into the wood all the time. We don't regulate that at all. So that is something that I've come to learn, and it's almost difficult to do, to stay away from adding that forward hook, getting the file or the grinder too deep, so that we maintain that strong working corner on the harvester chain. So that's my little jig. Like I said, it was kind of a follow-up to one I made a while ago. Love the questions and comments. Always learning from each other. Take care, guys.